The rain fell softly over the city, painting the streets in silver reflections. Headlights blurred in puddles, footsteps echoed on wet concrete, and the air smelled of both luxury and loneliness. Inside a sleek black car, Ethan Cole, one of the city's richest businessmen, stared blankly at his phone as his driver slowed near a park. Through the tinted glass, something caught his eye, a small figure under a street lamp, holding an umbrella too big for her frail frame. She was writing something in the dirt, and beside her sat a little girl in a school uniform. Ethan leaned closer. It was his daughter, Lily. He froze. The little girl he'd barely had time to see lately, sitting cross-legged on the wet ground, was laughing with a homeless girl, one who looked no older than 12. The stranger was teaching her something, drawing letters with a broken stick, her face illuminated by the soft orange glow of the streetlight. Ethan's chest tightened. For the first time in a long time, he saw his daughter smile in a way that didn't come from gadgets, tutors, or expensive toys. He didn't step out, he just watched, the rain tracing quiet lines down his window, the world suddenly slowing around that fragile, beautiful moment. "Who is she?" he whispered. His driver looked in the mirror but stayed silent. Because really, how could anyone explain something so pure? Before we dive deeper, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? It amazes me how far a single story can travel. Drop your city, let's see how wide kindness still spreads. Ethan finally stepped out, his expensive shoes splashing in the puddles. The cold wind bit his face as he approached, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Lily noticed him first, her smile faded, guilt flickering across her innocent face. The homeless girl looked up, startled, clutching her small notebook to her chest like a shield. "Dad, this is Ava," Lily said softly. "She's teaching me letters." Ethan blinked, confused. "Teaching you? You have private tutors." "She's better," Lily interrupted. "She makes learning fun." Ava stood quietly, trembling, eyes wide with fear. Her hair was wet, tangled, her clothes thin and torn. Yet when she looked at Lily, her eyes held warmth, not envy, not shame, just kindness. Ethan swallowed hard. Something about the girl reminded him of a version of himself he'd buried long ago, a time before wealth, before deals and deadlines. "Where are your parents?" he asked gently. Ava hesitated, glancing down. "They went away." The rain grew heavier, blurring her words into the night. "Come," Ethan said abruptly. "You'll catch cold." He didn't know why he said it. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the way Lily held Ava's hand as if letting go would break her. They walked toward the car, three figures bound by accident, by curiosity, by something that felt almost divine. Inside, Ethan's world began to shift. The hum of the city outside faded. In the small silence between heartbeats, he realized that the richest man in the car wasn't him. And the night was far from over. The car's heater hummed softly as the city lights streaked past, casting golden ribbons across Ava's face. She sat at the edge of the leather seat, nervous but trying to hide it. Lily held her hand tight, the way a child does when they feel something precious slipping away. Ethan glanced at them from time to time, his mind waging war between logic and something that felt suspiciously like compassion. When they reached the mansion, the contrast hit Ava like a wave. Crystal chandeliers glimmered, polished marble reflected her dusty shoes, and the air smelled faintly of roses and money. She froze at the door, unsure whether to step in. "It's okay," Lily whispered, tugging her gently. "You're safe here." Ethan handed his coat to the maid, his tone sharp from habit. "Get her something warm to eat," he ordered, then caught himself. He looked back at Ava, small, shivering, eyes darting like a trapped bird, and softened. "Please." Ava nodded politely. "Thank you, sir." Those words, humble, careful, honest, struck something deep inside him. As she ate in silence, Ethan noticed the way she handled the spoon, graceful, deliberate, as if she'd learned from watching, not being taught. After dinner, Lily ran upstairs, returning with a crayon set. "Ava draws stories," she told her father proudly. "She taught me how to tell them with pictures." Ethan leaned forward. "Stories?" Ava hesitated, then opened her worn notebook. Pages filled with hand-drawn sketches told silent tales, A girl sleeping under a bridge, a mother holding her child, a man giving bread to strangers. Ethan turned the pages slowly, feeling the ache of every image. "They're beautiful," he murmured. Ava smiled faintly. "I draw what I see. People forget kind things too fast. So I draw them." For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Ethan's mansion, filled with art worth millions, suddenly felt hollow next to that single tattered notebook. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest, comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to prove that compassion still matters. That night, after Lily went to bed, Ethan found himself pacing his study. He couldn't shake the image of the two girls in the rain, one wealthy beyond measure, the other stripped of everything, yet somehow richer in soul. He opened his laptop, pulled up the city's orphanage registry, and searched for any record of Ava. Nothing. The next morning, she was gone. Her notebook remained on the couch, a single page fluttering open, a sketch of Lily holding a small heart in her hand, giving it to another girl drawn in pencil and hope. "Sir," the maid said softly, "the girl left before sunrise. She didn't want to be a burden." Ethan clenched the notebook, his jaw tightening. "Find her," he said quietly. But the city was vast. And Ava had disappeared into it like smoke in wind. Days turned into weeks. Lily missed her, leaving notes by the gate every evening. "Come back soon," she wrote in uneven handwriting. Ethan read them all, guilt pressing heavier each night. One afternoon, while stuck in traffic downtown, he saw her again, sitting near a food stall, sketching children playing. Without thinking, he stepped out of the car and walked toward her. She looked up, startled but not afraid. "Mr. Cole?" "You left your notebook," he said, handing it over. She blinked. "You kept it?" He nodded. "Some things are worth keeping." "Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think." Ava's lips trembled, but she smiled. "Lily said you'd come." Ethan hesitated, unsure what to say. The sound of car horns and street vendors faded. The world felt smaller, quieter. He realized, maybe for the first time, that wealth had given him everything, except the courage to feel. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he wanted to change that. Ethan didn't understand it then, why a child like Ava lingered in his thoughts like a half-finished sentence. But as days passed, the image of her sitting under that street lamp wouldn't leave him. There was a quiet strength in her eyes, something that had nothing to do with pity and everything to do with dignity. He found her again that week, sketching near an old public library. This time, he didn't arrive in a suit. He came alone, sleeves rolled, a man stripped of his armor. "You draw here often?" he asked. Ava nodded, her pencil never stopping. "It's quiet. No one chases me away if I keep to the corner." Ethan sat beside her on the cold stone step, ignoring the strange looks from passers-by. "What are you drawing today?" She tilted the paper slightly, a scene of a girl with a backpack, surrounded by books that looked like tiny wings. "A girl who wants to learn so much she could fly away," she said softly. He felt that in his chest. It was the kind of answer money could never buy. They talked for a while, about Lily, about school, about how Ava once sneaked into a classroom just to listen. Ethan learned she used to live with her mother, who had passed a year ago. Since then, Ava had drifted, drawing, surviving, teaching when she could, because teaching made her feel useful. When Ethan drove home that night, the city lights seemed different. They didn't blind him anymore, they bled warmth. The next morning, he visited Lily's school. In the principal's office, he said, "I want to sponsor a student, anonymously." He didn't say who, but he already knew. That afternoon, he returned to the library with a small backpack, new pencils, books, a tablet. But when he arrived, Ava wasn't there. In her place lay a folded note weighed down by a stone. "Thank you for noticing me. But some things aren't meant to be gifts, they're meant to be lessons." He stood there for a long time, the sound of traffic mixing with the ache of something he didn't understand. That night, Lily found him sitting by her bed. "Dad," she whispered, "Ava said once that rich people forget what poor people remember, love." Her words hit harder than any boardroom truth ever had. Ethan felt the weight of every missed bedtime, every hurried hug, every moment traded for money. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. Weeks passed before Ethan saw her again. It was raining again, maybe fate liked repeating its lessons. She was sitting under the same street lamp, this time helping a smaller boy with his homework. Her hair was tucked neatly behind her ears, her old clothes cleaned but still threadbare. Ethan approached quietly, watching her patience, the way she explained every answer like it was treasure. "Ava," he said softly. She looked up and smiled. "You found me again." "I never really stopped looking." He crouched down beside them, placing an envelope on her lap, not filled with money, but papers. "What's this?" she asked. "Enrollment," he replied. "You're officially a student now." Ava's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes shimmered in the light, disbelief turning into something radiant. "Why?" she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "Because some lessons shouldn't stay on the streets." A tear slid down her cheek, lost in the rain. "Thank you," she breathed. But he shook his head. "No, Ava. Thank you for teaching mine." The thunder rolled above them like applause. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang from a church tower, marking not an ending, but a beginning. The days that followed were unlike anything Ava had known before. For the first time, she walked into a classroom not as an outsider, but as a student with her own desk, her own books, her own future. Ethan made sure her admission stayed anonymous, just as he'd promised. He didn't want credit, he only wanted her to have a chance. Every morning, Ava would pass the same park where she used to sleep. The bench where she once spent nights was now just a bench again, not a memory carved in cold wood. She whispered a small thank you to the wind each day before walking to school. Ethan, meanwhile, found himself changing. His meetings felt emptier, his office quieter. He began showing up at Lily's school unannounced, eating lunch with her, asking about her friends. He had never realized how much of her world he'd missed while chasing another. At home, Lily kept talking about Ava, her grades, her art, her laughter. It filled the mansion with something new, life. One Saturday afternoon, Ava came over again. She was wearing her new school uniform, a little big on her, but she wore it like armor. Lily wanted help with her essay, she said shyly. Ethan smiled. "You're always welcome here." As they sat at the dining table, Ethan watched the two girls, their heads bent together, whispering ideas, giggling at mistakes. The sound was pure. For the first time in years, the house didn't echo, it breathed. That night, Ethan walked into his late wife's old art room. Dust covered the easel, the canvases hidden beneath white sheets. He hadn't entered that space since she passed. But now, he uncovered one, a painting of a little girl offering a flower to a stranger. His wife used to say, "Kindness is wealth in disguise." He finally understood. The next morning, he invited Ava and Lily to join him at the charity event his company hosted every year. It was always glamorous, red carpets, photographers, people in suits pretending to care. But this time, he wanted something real. When they arrived, heads turned. Not at Ethan, not at his daughter, but at Ava, the small girl in a simple dress standing beside him. Ethan walked to the podium and took a deep breath. "Tonight," he began, "we celebrate generosity. But real generosity doesn't live in our wallets, it lives in our hearts." He turned slightly toward Ava. "I met someone who reminded me of that." The audience murmured. Ava's eyes widened in surprise. Ethan continued, "She didn't have much, yet she gave everything, her time, her kindness, her hope. And because of her, my daughter learned what true education looks like." Applause filled the hall. Cameras flashed, but Ethan didn't care. He looked only at Ava, who stood frozen, overwhelmed, tears trembling in her eyes. If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't. After the event, Ava hugged him, tight, wordless, trembling. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You already did," he said gently. "By just being you." From that night onward, Ethan started something new, a foundation for underprivileged children, built in Ava's name. He called it the Little Light Project. When he showed Ava the paperwork, she gasped. "You named it after me?" He smiled softly. "No. I named it after what you gave us, light." Ava's laughter echoed through the house, bright and fragile, like wind chimes in summer. Lily joined in, wrapping her arms around her friend. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The sky was clear, wide, forgiving, endless. Weeks passed, and the Little Light Project grew faster than anyone imagined. Ethan poured his time and money into it, but this time, not from guilt. From purpose. He visited schools, spoke to teachers, even sat in small classrooms where laughter echoed louder than despair. And always, at the heart of it, was Ava, a quiet reminder of what goodness looks like when no one's watching. She spent afternoons helping younger kids read, using the same notebook she once used to sketch dreams. Her drawings now filled the foundation's walls, bright, childlike, and honest. Each picture told a story, of hunger met with kindness, loneliness softened by friendship, and pain healed by love. But one evening, as she waited outside for Ethan's car, she suddenly swayed. The world tilted. Her vision blurred. Before she could call out, she collapsed. By the time Ethan arrived, panic filled the air. Lily cried out, rushing to her side. "Dad! She's not waking up!" Ethan scooped Ava into his arms, his heart thundering as he shouted for the driver. Within minutes, they were speeding toward the hospital. Rain streaked across the windshield again, as if the sky itself was worried. In the hospital hallway, the fluorescent lights felt merciless. Ethan paced restlessly, hands trembling, replaying every second, the way she smiled that morning, how she promised to show Lily her new sketch after class. Hours passed before the doctor came out. "She's stable," he said gently. "But she's been malnourished for years. Her body's strong, but she's exhausted. She needs care and rest." Relief and guilt hit Ethan like a wave. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. How many nights had she gone hungry before I ever noticed her? When Ava woke, her small voice broke the silence. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to worry anyone." Ethan shook his head. "You have nothing to be sorry for." Lily sat beside her bed, clutching her hand. "We thought we lost you." Ava smiled faintly. "You can't lose something that was never yours to own. You just have to take care of it while it stays." Her words lingered in the air, fragile, wise, unforgettable. "Be honest, could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply." Ethan spent every night at the hospital. He brought books, sketches, even her favorite strawberry yogurt. He read her bedtime stories, the kind Lily used to love. In those quiet hours, something healed inside him, something far older than Ava's wounds. One night, Ava looked up from her bed. "Mr. Cole, why are you helping me so much?" Ethan's voice softened. "Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. And I never said thank you." She blinked slowly. "Who?" He smiled sadly. "My father. I was angry for years, thought he didn't care. But when he died, I found letters he wrote me, pages full of love I never saw. Sometimes we only understand hearts when they stop beating." Ava was silent for a moment. Then she whispered, "Maybe that's why I draw, so memories never stop breathing." Ethan's throat tightened. "Then promise me one thing, Ava." She nodded. "Promise you'll never stop drawing. Even when it hurts." Her eyes glistened. "I promise." Outside her window, the city lights flickered like candles. In that glow, the man who once measured worth in numbers finally learned what real wealth looked like, a heartbeat steady and alive, whispering that kindness, once given, never truly fades. Ava recovered slowly, her cheeks regaining color, her laughter returning like sunlight through cracked clouds. Ethan made sure she had the best doctors, the best food, even private tutors when she was strong enough to learn again. Yet, he knew, no luxury could replace what she'd lost all those years. What Ava truly needed wasn't comfort. It was belonging. Weeks later, as she sat sketching in her hospital bed, she turned to him and asked softly, "Do you ever get tired of pretending you're fine?" Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" You smile like someone who's still sad inside, she said. My mom used to smile that way before she got sick. Her words struck like quiet thunder. He sat down beside her, eyes fixed on the drawing in her lap. It was of a man sitting in the rain, holding a broken umbrella over a little girl. You drew me, he said with a trembling laugh. Ava smiled faintly. I drew what I saw. That night, Ethan walked outside the hospital and stood beneath the same rain he'd once watched from behind tinted glass. He realized he wasn't just helping Ava heal, she was healing him too, piece by piece. As weeks passed, Ava was discharged, and life began to settle into a new rhythm. She visited the foundation daily, teaching small kids how to draw emotions instead of shapes. Lily joined her, and together they filled the place with the kind of laughter that wealth could never buy. But something still weighed heavy on Ethan's mind. He knew Ava had nowhere permanent to live, only temporary shelters arranged through the foundation. Every night when she left, he felt a hollow ache, a fatherly instinct whispering she deserves a home. One evening, he invited her and Lily to dinner again. After the meal, he brought out a small box. Ava, he said gently, I have something for you. She blinked, nervous. What is it? He opened the box to reveal a key, small, silver, gleaming under the chandelier light. This isn't charity, he said. It's a thank you. There's a little apartment near the foundation. It's yours, a place to start fresh. Ava's lips parted, her breath catching. Mr. Cole, I can't. You can, he interrupted softly. You've given more to us than you realize. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked between him and Lily. You've already given me a family. Lily hugged her tight, whispering, now we're really neighbors. Ethan smiled, but inside he felt a knot of emotion he couldn't untangle, guilt, pride, love, and something deeper, like redemption. That night, as Ava moved into her new home, she placed her old notebook by the window. The wind rustled the pages, turning to a blank sheet, a promise waiting to be written. If you believe love still wins, comment amen. Let's fill this section with hope, maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. Months passed, and Ava's art began to attract attention. A journalist covering the Little Light project asked to feature her story, The Girl Who Taught a Billionaire Compassion. Ethan hesitated but finally agreed, as long as Ava's dignity stayed intact. When the article was published, it went viral. People across the city sent letters, donations, and drawings inspired by her. Some even wrote, You reminded me what kindness looks like. Ava read every message with trembling hands. It feels strange, she said. I was invisible for so long. Now people see me. Ethan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Sometimes, being seen isn't about fame. It's about finally being understood. Her eyes softened. Then maybe we both got lucky. That night, they all sat together, Ethan, Lily, and Ava, watching the sunset from her tiny balcony. The sky blazed in gold and crimson, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt peace settle quietly inside his chest. The months that followed turned into seasons, and the Little Light project became more than a foundation, it became a family. Kids from across the city found not just help there, but hope. Ava, once the girl teaching lessons under a street lamp, was now the one creating art that spoke louder than words. Her drawings hung in classrooms, shelters, and hospitals, whispering a simple truth: kindness never dies, it only changes hands. Ethan often watched her from his office window at the foundation. She laughed easily now, but he could still see that same quiet humility in her, the same fire that had melted his arrogance months ago. Every time she smiled, he felt gratitude bloom in his chest like spring after a long winter. But life, as it always does, had one more lesson waiting. One evening, while preparing for a fundraiser, Ava stood before a large canvas, painting the story of her life. The colors were soft, gold for hope, blue for loss, crimson for love that wasn't romantic but human. Ethan walked in quietly, not wanting to disturb her. It's beautiful, he said softly. She turned, brush in hand, her eyes distant. Do you ever feel afraid of being happy? Ethan frowned. Why would you be afraid? Because, she whispered, every time I thought I had something good, it went away. He stepped closer. This time, it won't. Not if I can help it. Ava smiled weakly, but the sadness in her eyes didn't fade completely. She looked back at the painting and said, "Then promise me you'll keep helping others, even when I'm gone." He froze. Gone? Ava, what are you talking about? She turned, wiping a tear before it could fall. I went for another checkup last week. The doctor said my heart's weak, from the years on the streets, the cold, the hunger. They can't fix it, only slow it down. The room seemed to tilt. Ethan felt his breath catch, his throat tighten. No, that can't be. It's okay, she said gently. I'm not scared. I've already had more love than I ever dreamed. He stepped forward, gripping her shoulders. We'll find a way. I'll pay whatever it takes. She shook her head. Some things money can't buy, remember? Ethan's vision blurred. He pulled her into his arms, feeling her heartbeat, fragile, fluttering, fading like a candle in wind. That night, he sat by her bedside again, just like before. Lily lay asleep beside her, holding Ava's hand tight. Ava whispered, "Tell Lily to always draw with her heart." He nodded, unable to speak. The next morning, she was gone. Peaceful. Still smiling. A single sketch lay on her lap, 3 figures under a street lamp, hands intertwined. Ethan wept quietly, the sound breaking the stillness of dawn. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, I felt you. Ava's funeral was small but filled with light. Children from the foundation released lanterns into the evening sky. Ethan and Lily stood together, watching hundreds of golden sparks float upward, everyone carrying her memory a little higher. Later, Ethan renamed the foundation's art wing Ava's Corner. There, her sketches stayed on the walls, unframed, just as she liked. Beneath them, a quote she once said was painted in her handwriting. Even the smallest light can guide someone home. Years passed. The foundation expanded worldwide. Lily grew up and took over, carrying Ava's kindness into new hearts. And every year, on the anniversary of Ava's passing, Ethan visited that same street lamp, the one where everything began. He'd leave a notebook, a pencil, and a small flower. And in that quiet corner of the world, he'd whisper to the wind, "Thank you for teaching me how to live." Years folded into each other like pages of an old book, and time softened the sharp edges of Ethan's grief. The city changed, taller buildings, brighter lights, but one corner never did, the little street lamp that once sheltered a homeless girl and her student. Every time Ethan passed it, he felt the same quiet pull in his chest, a reminder that some moments outlive lifetimes. He was older now, silver hair, slower steps, but eyes that still carried that same depth Ava once awakened. Lily, now in her 20s, ran the Little Light project with grace and courage. Her laughter filled every room, her kindness mirroring the girl who had taught her what love looked like in its purest form. One evening, Ethan stood outside the foundation's new art gallery. Inside, the walls glowed with the light of hundreds of sketches, most drawn by children whose lives had been changed by Ava's story. The exhibition was titled "The Girl Who Taught the World to See." Lily joined him at the entrance, holding a candle. "Dad," she said softly, "they're about to start." He smiled faintly. "Go on, sweetheart." As she walked to the stage, Ethan listened as she spoke, her voice trembling, yet strong. "My best friend Ava once said that kindness is invisible until someone chooses to live it. Tonight, every drawing here is proof that her light never went out. It only multiplied." The audience rose in applause. Ethan's eyes shimmered as he looked up, and for a moment, he swore he saw her. Ava, standing near the gallery's entrance, barefoot, smiling. Her eyes soft, her hands clasped before her. She nodded once, a silent promise kept, then faded like sunlight melting into dusk. After the event, Ethan returned home, the same mansion that once felt empty now warm with echoes of laughter. He sat in his study, where Ava's old notebook rested by the window. Opening it, he found one final drawing he hadn't seen before, a grown Lily standing beside an older man under a glowing street lamp. Above them, written in her delicate handwriting, "The ones we lose never really leave." They become the stories that keep us alive. Ethan's tears fell silently onto the page. For the first time in years, they weren't tears of pain, they were gratitude, the kind that feels like prayer. He whispered into the quiet room, "You did it, Ava. You lit the whole world." Outside, thunder rumbled softly, not in warning but in applause. And as the rain began to fall again, the same rain that had started everything, the city glimmered, every droplet reflecting light from somewhere unseen. In that moment, Ethan understood, Ava's story wasn't just his to tell. It belonged to everyone who still believed that even the smallest act of kindness could rewrite a life. If you've carried pain, loss, or loneliness and still choose to be kind, this story is for you. You are the proof that love never dies, it just finds new faces to wear. Before you go, take a moment. Close your eyes. Think of someone who once showed you kindness, even a small one. Whisper their name. Then, if your heart feels it, share this story, so their goodness lives on through you. Because somewhere tonight, another child sits beneath a street lamp, waiting for a miracle that might begin with your light.